Hey folks, I wanted to go over a basic reading list and this is by no means, what do you call it, comprehensive, but just a reading list of some journalism, some creative writing, and some basics. So this is, as the title says, a good list to dive into. And most of you will not read most of this list. So don't use this list to guilt trip yourself about not reading it or watching. And really just jump into the ones you're inspired about. And if you are motivated to be all that you can be, watch and read all of them. All right, so I've watched and read all of them, I'm pretty sure. So A Good Life, this is about Ben Bradley. It's a fantastic inside look at being a journalist, at being an editor in many of the most romantic periods to be a journalist and to be an editor, from probably one of the greatest editors of all time, if not the greatest, Pentagon Papers, Watergate, but also his adventures that are very Hemingway-esque in Paris and in Europe and various places back in the day. Super fun read. True Perception, which used to be called Dharma Art by Trungpa Rinpoche. This talks about how art is not performance, art is a genuine expression. You're never going to get this perspective reading anything else, so I think it's pretty vital. So that's on my you have to read it list. Writing Down the Bones, basic, classic, how to write book with tons of writing exercises to get you inspired and actually writing. From a journalism point of view, All the President's Men is very romantic and fun to watch. Romantic in the sense that you get inspired. Suggested reading. Cheap Words, if it's a couple years old, it's about Amazon and their power. If you are thinking of buying books on Amazon or printing your book on Amazon, please read that first. It's a great read. Even the first paragraph is enough to read. Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. If you're writing about anything spiritual, here's how to write. You'll need to read this so that you don't make things worse for yourself and for the world. Max Perkins, another legendary editor, more books. He was the editor for Thomas Wolfe, who at the time was one of the biggest writers in the world, Hemingway, Fitzgerald. Big Magic, I don't remember this one.
Elizabeth Gilbert book about accessing your creativity.
Cool. So Elizabeth Gilbert, obviously a great writer. Her book, and this is about how to write.
And how to allow yourself to be creative in your writing.
Great. Strunk and White, I have an old copy here. It's a classic. If you don't read it once before you die, you cannot call yourself a writer. That is actually, the legal technical thing in God's writing handbook. So it's a must read at least once. Sacred Path of the Warrior, but also by Trungpa Rinpoche. It's a good non-Buddhist, accessible perspective on being a good person and how to be a benefit to the world. I suggest everyone read at least the first 4/5. The last fifth gets a little nuts. Couple other books. John Franklin, this is from my Boston University journalism school days. Great read and writing for story. And I just want to show you this. This is my dictionary from when I was in college, and I would write down books I wanted to read. I would write down like my writing schedule. I would underline or left line every word I ever looked up. So, and I did it, I was already a nerd and an A student and probably the best in my class. And if you find that annoying or imagine just how annoying I was back then. And I still looked up everything. So I really recommend it. Keep a little dictionary with you, or if you're an online kind of guy, or woman, look up every word you don't know the exact definition to. More? Suggested watching. Edward R. Murrow, he is the god of journalists. Watch I think it's American Masters. Is that PBS? It's on YouTube. Watch it. He made being a good journalism with integrity, who was accessible, who everyone loved, who could take down McCarthy at the height of McCarthyism, look cool and look good. So he's the idol of basically every journalist ever. Page one is a good inside look at the New York Times. If you can't find that on Hulu or DVD or whatever, you can just Google a bunch of like New York Times stuff on YouTube and or search on YouTube, and you'll find some good inside looks. Spotlight, a more modern version of All the President's Men. Different story, obviously, but also fact-based, and a great look at why journalism matters. So most of this applies to journalists and writers, and just if you want to be a good person kind of thing.
And where might folks get these books if we're avoiding Amazon?
I mean, part of the romance of finding any book is going into used bookstores and asking and looking, and you know, support your local bookstore, and then they'll stay alive. And if you don't support your local bookstore, then they won't. So none of us should be fooled in thinking that buying stuff on Amazon is ever harmless. All right, thank you so much.